Hello, my friends, my family, my beautiful everyone. I am back after 2 weeks of being sick. Not neurological this time, but sick enough to be in bed for about 11 straight days. But I'm back and we're here to do the mid-year freak out book and movie tag. I'm doing books and movies because this is an all media inclusive channel. So I, drumroll, only read 19 books in the first half of the year. But I was out of commission completely for like the first 3 months. January and February, I sound like a broken record. January and February, I was very sick neurologically, so I was out of commission. I read 1 book in January, 1 book in February. In March, I was traveling. I was in Scotland and Ireland, and I don't read when I travel. So I also read just 1 book during that month. And then I read like an average of 5.5 books for April, May, and June, and that I'm fine with. Like you might know, I am a slow-ass reader. 5.5 books on average in a month, that's fine for me. I'm okay with that. However, of those 19 books, I have an average rating of 4.13 stars. So we are really saying quality over quantity in 2026, apparently. I mean, I've only read 2 books thus far that are under a 3.5, which is crazy. I also DNF'd 6 books, which I'm very proud of. I'm not a DNFer. I had to get used to the concept of it. So if you're counting DNF'd books, I actually got through 25 books in the first half of the year, which is pretty on par for the goal I set on Goodreads. I only ever set it to 52 books, like 1 book per week. So that's pretty on par if you want to count the DNFs. I did, however, watch 66 movies in the last 6 months, and only 14 of those were rewatches, which means that I watched 52 new movies in the first half of the year. So I have gathered my list of 18 questions, and I will be answering each question in terms of books and movies. So let's get into it. The first question is the best book and movie of 2026 so far. I'm just going to tell you everything that I've given 5 stars to. I do not want to try and process and figure out which book is my actual favorite of the year. I'm stressed out thinking about it because I love all of these books so fucking much. Oh, I should have arranged these better. I have to pull out. Oh, damn it. Okay, so far this year I have 5 5-star books, and those in no particular order are God's Junk Drawer by Peter Clines, which is a book about a boy who went missing on a river rafting trip when he was like 9 years old, and he resurfaces on the other side of the world 5 years later, claiming to have spent the past few years in this valley millions of years in the past, filled with dinosaurs and cavemen and robots and all of this weird shit. No one believes him and everyone thinks that he's traumatized or crazy. And then he spends his whole life figuring out scientifically how to get back to that valley, and then he figures it out, and that's the book. This is a book that seemingly was written specifically for me. This is so incredibly my shit. First 5 star. Our next 5 star is Empire of Shadows by Jacqueline Benson. This is about a woman who discovers a secret old map, and she has to go on this sort of treasure hunt through Belize to find this old city before the bad guys do. She teams up with this man Adam, who's the last man she ever wants to spend time in the jungle with, but then things happen. This is a little bit of Indiana Jones, a little bit of The Mummy, and on the back it also says for fans of Romancing the Stone, which I haven't seen but is high up on my list. Third 5 star is The Everlasting by Alexi Harrow, about the legendary tale of Una Everlasting and the man who has to keep traveling through time in order for that legend to be told. And that's all I will say about that. Fourth of my 5 stars, you probably saw it coming, that would be A Life on Our Planet by David Attenborough. Anytime I read a David Attenborough book, it's going to wind up in the top 10, 5, 1 spot, whatever it's gonna be. This man is my hero and I love him more than almost anything else on the planet. This book is about the ways in which humans have affected the planet negatively and what it means for our future, and also the steps that we can take in order to create a better future for our beautiful planet, for our wildlife, for our ecosystems. And last but not least, we have The Red Winter by Cameron Sullivan. I have loved the stories of the Beast of Gévaudan for as long as I can remember, and I was so excited when I found out that there was a fantasy book about the Beast of Gévaudan coming out, and it did not disappoint me. This is about a kind of immortal man with a demon that lives in his head, and they have to go back to a place from their past where they can finally defeat this evil, this beast that they tried to vanquish 20 years before that obviously didn't work. Hopefully I pitched those well enough to you. I have been sick for 2 weeks, so my brain is a little bit scrambled, but I do suggest every one of you reads every single one of those 5 books that I just said. I have not, surprisingly, given a whole lot of new to me movies 5 stars this year. I think it's only 3. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and yes, I I did just watch this for the first time. I know that's embarrassing. I don't want to talk about it. Obsession and Train Dreams. There are also obviously rewatches that, 5-star rewatches: Fellowship of the Ring, The Mummy, Call Me by Your Name, A Perfect Getaway, As Above, So Below. I know that As Above, So Below is not a perfect horror movie, but it is perfect to me. Oh, same with A Perfect Getaway. That's not a perfect movie, except to me. To me, A Perfect Getaway is a perfect movie. It is the most perfect mid-movie you could possibly want, in my head. I'm also not going to be talking about TV shows on here, but there are 2 television shows that I do want to give flowers to because I'm obsessed with them. And that is A Night of the Seven Kingdoms and Widow's Bay. I am foaming at the mouth, waiting for season 2 of each of these shows. Perfect. Perfection. Is it crazy? Is it crazy to say that I might like A Night of the Seven Kingdoms more than the original Game of Thrones show? Is that insane? That is perhaps how I feel. I haven't examined my thoughts fully, but that might be how I feel. Question 2 is the worst of 2026 so far. Ugh, for books, my God. Throne of the Fallen by Carrie Maniscalco. This was so disappointing because what I wanted was good, sexy times, and what I got was bad, horny nonsense. There was barely a plot around. Listen, I'm not one who believes that any kind of sex in books means it's smut. There's certain books that fit into the category of just stop it. There's certain books that fit into the category of smut, but I don't believe in taking, romantasy with a fully fleshed out plot line and some sex scenes and just calling that smut. That is so close-minded to me. That's just stupid. This, well, not smut, it did not have a fully fleshed out plot line around the sex scenes, and also the sexual parts would come in when they don't make any sense. You have to go through trials, but oh, guess what? Because of this one rule, you have to be naked while you do the trials. None of it made sense. This book. I gave it a 2.5 originally when I was doing the vlog. I'm probably gonna drop this down to a 2. And for some reason I did say I was gonna give the second book a try still. I own the book, so I feel like I should give it a try before getting rid of it, but maybe I should just get rid of them. 4 movies. I need to check Letterboxd for this. So the only movie, oh God, So the only movie I've given a half star so far this year is Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. My friend Allie and I are making our way through the poohniverse. If you don't know what the poohniverse is, it started with Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. And that apparently got enough traction that they're just making so many films now. We've been pleasantly surprised by a few of them, but Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare is not one of them. Just like nightmare fuel all around, and not in a good way. Question 3 is best sequel. I have started 7 series this year, but so far the only sequel that I've read, finally, is Dune Messiah. If you've been around here for a while, you will know that I named Dune Messiah in my first video ever 2.5 years ago as one I've been putting off. And guess what? I put it off for another 2.5 years. But the video for this, the video that this is in, it's not out yet. So I'm not gonna tell you my thoughts. So you can keep on wondering if this is my favorite sequel because I loved it, or if it's my favorite sequel because it's the only sequel that I've read so far this year. And if you really want to cheat, you can go check my Goodreads. It's there. The best movie sequel I've watched, I have 2 of these. Number 1 is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I loved the 3rd movie more than the 1st movie. I don't know if that's a hot take. And then following closely behind is 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, which apparently did not do very well in theaters, so we don't know if we're getting the 3rd movie that's supposed to come out. I liked The Bone Temple more than any other movie in the entire franchise. I liked it more than the original trilogy. I liked it more than 28 Years Later. I think this is a great movie, and Ralph Fiennes is incredible in it. Absolutely incredible. So I'm really hoping that we can still get the 3rd in this new trilogy. Otherwise I'll be very sad. Question 4, favorite reading experience. Hands down, this has to be reading a David Attenborough book while I was in Las Vegas with my mother, while I was out there to support Steve Irwin's family for their event, because the whole weekend was just filled with wildlife conservation. Wildlife conservation events, wildlife conservation books. I was in my element. I was such a happy girl for that whole weekend, even though I was in Vegas, which I fucking hate. Question 5 is 2026 releases you still want to get to. There are so many, but I only want to name 2 books. two books. The first is We Burn So Bright by TJ Klune, which I don't own yet, so I don't have it here to show you, but I want to get to it so badly. It's this little novella about the end of the world and husbands who are going on an RV road trip through the country at the end of the world. It's something like that. It's supposed to make me cry, and I want to cry. Second, I do have here, and that is Canon by Paige Lewis, which I've heard is a fever dream of a book. It's about two sisters who... I'm getting this a little mixed up with Mad Sisters of Essie. This is about... I don't know. I just read the inside of this like 3 times. I still don't understand what we're talking about. But the cover has a flying whale on it. So I'm really hoping that this has the possibility of giving me Treasure Planet whale, flying space whale vibes. You know what I'm talking about. For movies, I really still need to see Pillion. It had such a weird release schedule, not one that it deserved. It was not a wide release by any means, which is nuts. It had so little marketing, but it looks heartwarming, which I know might be a strange way to describe a leather daddy BDSM love story, but at the core of it, it's a love story, so I'm excited to see it. It's on HBO Max now, I think? It's on something now, so I can watch it. I just have to do it. Question 6, most anticipated releases for the rest of the year, and I need to read off of here for this. For books, The Silence at Ashborough, Blacktail, The Knave and the Moon, Find Me Where It Ends, The Turning of Sally Mae, and Tyrant Lizard Queen. And that last one is a non-fiction all about the Tyrannosaurus Rex. And I can't wait to get my hands on it in October, I think. For movies, 100% Flower Vale Street, which sounds to me a lot like a movie version of God's Junk Drawer. Flower Vale Street is about a family who wakes up and realizes that their entire street has been thrust like millions of years in the past and they get besieged by dinosaurs. Similar. I also can't wait for Whale Fall, which was one of my favorite books. I think it was my favorite book actually of 2023, is that right? Also, Sunrise on the Reaping, Dune 3, and Werewolf. Obviously, also Avengers Doomsday, but I don't really hold high hopes for that. I am just a Marvel girl, and I have to hold on to the little pea-sized amount of hope that I still hold in my heart. Question 7, biggest surprise for books. That is God's Junk Drawer by Peter Clines, because it was a total surprise coming into my life. I had no idea about it. I'd never heard of it. I didn't know it was being released, and then I found it randomly when I was in a bookshop during indie bookshop weekend. So, surprised by this one overall. For movies, this is going to sound insane, but it's Bambi the Reckoning from the Poohniverse. And it's the most surprising because after watching Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, I was convinced that every single movie in the Poohniverse was just gonna be hot dog garbage water, but it turns out I was wrong. Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2 was a lot better than the first one. Bambi the Reckoning, even better. But please, I'm begging you, do not take this as a recommendation from me. I do not think that 95% of you should watch these movies, but if you are one of the 5% who thinks that low budget murderous Winnie the Pooh characters sounds like a good thing, then, you know, go for it. Just don't blame me if you hate it and you think it's hot trash, because it is. It is hot trash, but sometimes I yearn for hot trash. Question 8, biggest disappointment. Okay, for books, this is not my least favorite book of the year. We know that. But the most disappointing was probably The Extra by Annie Neugebauer, because the setup made it sound like it could have been the perfect book for me, and it just gave me so much less than I wanted. This is about 10 people who go on a camping trip, and then once they get to their campsite, they realize there's 11 people there, but each of them has memories of all 11 people, so they can't figure out who the extra is, how they got there, what they want, or how they have memories of absolutely everyone on the trip. This could have been so sick, but it's because the ending was just so deeply disappointing. Gave us literally nothing. The epitome of go girl, give us nothing. And there are 3 movies that disappointed me so deeply this year. One of them I might get yelled at a little bit in the comments for. Anaconda, which I watched after 10 hours of driving in a hotel off the 5 in the middle of fucking nowhere during a drive to LA. I don't think I had high hopes for this, but it was still disappointing. It was one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. Also, Undertone. Undertone was actually disappointing because I was so excited. It looked so good, it could have been so good, and it was just so not. It was not a good movie. Some people might tell you it's a good movie, they're lying, it's fucking not. Undertone was horrible. Third, don't get mad at me, Disclosure Day. Was I crazy for expecting a Steven Spielberg movie to be good? No, and yet it was ass. ass. I will stick with Indiana Jones, I'll stick with Jaws, I'll stick with Catch Me If You Can, I'll stick with Jurassic Park, I'll stick with Saving Private Ryan, I'll stick with any other Spielberg movie. Oh, E.T. Any other Spielberg movie aside from Disclosure Day. Don't bring that shit to me again. Question 9, favorite new author / director for books. My favorite new authors, and this is new to me, authors that I had never read before. There's gonna be no surprise here. That'll be Peter Clines, Cameron Sullivan, and Jacqueline Benson. All three of these people know how to write a fun fucking book while also making it a good book. Very important to me. And favorite new director, Curry Barker. I can tell that Curry Barker is going to be so my type of shit. Also, Kane Parsons, once he gets into his groove a little bit more, and once he does what I believe he's going to do, which is get deeper and darker as he gets older. He's only 20, and Curry Barker's only 26, I think. I love that the up-and-coming directors are YouTubers, and I'm very, very, very excited to see what both of them come out with next. Question 10 is newest fictional crush. Usually, I would have no answer for this for books. I don't usually crush on people in books, but this time, the answer is Adam Bates from Empire of Shadows. He's nice to animals, he works in the jungles of Belize, he likes a woman who is loud and opinionated. What more could I ask for? And I might have a little you know what, it's not a crush. It's not a crush, but I feel an affinity towards Severo from Red Rising because he's a raging fucking psychopath. And it's not a crush, it's more of a feeling that I would like to adopt him as a pet, like Donnie Thornberry. Movies is a different story. I fall in love with everyone in movies. If I can see a person visually, I have fallen in love with that person at least a little bit. It's a flaw, probably. So for movies, I have a list. Indiana Jones, but also Indiana Jones's father. Lucy Liu in Charlie's Angels. Ralph Fiennes in Bone Temple. Tigger in Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. Charlize Theron in Apex, but Charlize Theron in everything. Rachel McAdams in Send Help, because she could take care of me. Finn Bennett in a crop top in Backrooms. Lewis Pullman doing sad karaoke at a dive bar in Remarkably Bright Creatures. And then I'm pulling in a few people from TV shows because how could I not? Dr. Jack Abbott from The Pit and the entire cast of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, pretty much. So these people, whoever I'm surrounded with right now, this is my harem. Books or movies that made me cry. Book crying has been pretty sparse for me this year. I know that I shed a tear or two during The Reformatory by Tananarive Due, and perhaps a single tear during The Everlasting at some point. But for movies, it's a little, oh wait, no, what am I talking about? What am I talking about? I full on wept while I was reading A Life on Our Planet. Multiple times. I wept for the state of the planet. I wept for stupidity of people. I wept for the fate of our children and our children's children all the way down the line. I fucking wept more than once. For movies, I shed at least a few tears during Iron Claw, Train Dreams, The Impossible, definitely, and I at least teared up during Project Hail Mary. Not anything having to do with Rocky, which is kind of surprising. It was all during the practical effects pink Petrovaline light up scene. Knowing that it was practical effects, the waterworks started. Books and movies that made me happy this year. That's gonna be a big list. But to narrow it down, I was fucking ecstatic the entire time that I was filming the Reading Whatever the I Want for my birthday video, but especially while I was reading these two, God's Junk Drawer and Empire of Shadows. I was also happy, but also petrified while I was reading The Fisherman by John Langan, because I was reading it for Kayla's live show, and it was the first and so far only time I've ever been live on the internet, and I was so nervous that I basically studied the book like a textbook, and I wrote like 45 pages of notes for it. So I know this book front to back, which makes me happy. For movies, mid-movies are always going to be the ones that make me the happiest. And so far this year, that means Charlie's Angels, which is technically mid. It has a 3.2 on Letterboxd. The Island, Apex, Greenland 2 Migration. Anything that sits between like a 2.8 and a 3.3, that is my sweet spot. Most beautiful book that you've bought or received this year, without a doubt, that will be the folio edition of Piranesi that Chanel from Chanel Chapters sent to me for my birthday. I am still in shock that I own this, and I pray to it every day like it's my own personal god. Absolutely unreal. I'm also still afraid to touch it because I do feel unworthy. Look at that. Need to read and watch by the end of 2026. If we are going off of my 26 and 26 list, I split that one up. I listed 13 books and 13 movies. For books, I have read 5 out of 13 so far, which is pretty good. And what I have left is Heap Earth Upon It by Chloe Michelle Howarth, Wolfworm by T. Kingfisher, which I don't even own, so I don't know why I put this on the list in the beginning of the year. The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, Cast, which is the only nonfiction I had on there, The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa, Masquerade by Oo Sangayomi, The Country Under Heaven by Frederick S. Durbin, and Mad Sisters of Essie by Tashin Mehta, obviously. For movies, I'm doing even worse. I've only checked off 3 out of 13 so far, which is insane. Remaining, I have Whale Fallen Werewolf, which don't come out for 3 and 5 months, respectively, I think. I also have Carol, Disobedience, and Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which for some reason I counted as like one big lesbian trifecta movie instead of 3 separate slots. Minari, Judas and the Black Messiah, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Brotherhood of the Wolf, which is also about the Beast of Gévaudan, so I can't fathom why I haven't watched it yet. Magnolia and Waves, which I also counted as one because they get compared to each other a lot. Dead Poet Society, and My Neighbor Totoro. So I have fucking work to do in the back half of this year. Books and movies you've been putting off. Books. I have been putting off Mad Sisters of Essie. It wasn't on purpose, but now it's on purpose because I'm trying to figure out that whole Treasure Planet video. Agua Viva, as you might know, it's only 88 pages, but it's going to change the trajectory of my life, and for that, I am scared. Song of Achilles, also on accident. It keeps getting replaced in videos. I keep thinking, oh, I get to read Song of Achilles for this or this or this, and then a different book somehow comes in and swoops the spot. It makes more sense in the video, or it gets pulled for whatever it is. Song of Achilles keeps getting pushed back and back and back. Also the whole Game of Thrones series, because I want to conceptualize the perfect video for it, and I know that it's going to involve rewatching the whole show, and I'm just not ready for that yet. Also, I'm waiting on someone, Allie, to let me know when she's gonna start watching Game of Thrones for the first time so that I can rewatch it as she's watching it. So actually, I am planning the whole Game of Thrones video around Allie's schedule. For movies, the answer to this has been Portrait of a Lady on Fire for the whole 2.5 years I've been on YouTube, but I think I'm finally doing it this weekend. Actually, as you're watching this, I might be watching Portrait of a Lady on Fire in this exact moment. Hopefully. Do you think you'll be reaching your goal, and will you be changing it? I always set my goal to a number I know I can hit, and if it doesn't seem like I'm gonna hit it, I just change the number. I don't give a shit. Who am I competing with? Favorite video of yours that you've made? I love doing the Read It or Unhaul It videos because I crave chaos, but I so thoroughly enjoyed myself in the reading whatever the I want video, and it makes me feel like I have to incorporate more reading whatever the I want in videos in the future. But obviously vlogging in Ireland and Scotland was the most incredible. However, I think that the most important video that I've made is the David Attenborough video, which is a shame because nonfiction is always going to perform worse on YouTube, which means that less people are going to watch the videos that could teach them the most about our beautiful planet and how to conserve and protect her. So I would say if you are not a nonfiction reader, if you're not a nonfiction video watcher, give it a chance. It doesn't have to be my video. Just give videos about wildlife conservation and planet protection. Give them a chance. Thank you. And lastly, new goals. My only goal for the rest of the year is not get sick as much. Knock on wood. And I know that a lot of that, the neurological stuff specifically, it's out of my control. So I'm just gonna send a wish out into the universe. The only other goal is moving back down to LA at some time in the fall because then I'll be closer to my doctors. So I don't have to keep doing this 18-hour each way drive every 6 weeks that I've been doing for the past 5 years. Because good Lord, that's stressful. It's exhausting. It's time consuming. It's expensive. I don't have any book or movie goals except just to keep reading and watching. My dreams right now all consist of me living a short, quick 45 minutes away from my neurologist. And that is it. We've done it. Good for us. I would love to hear what books you guys are loving from the first half of this year. If there are any books you've read that you think I need to read immediately, let me know. If you want to answer all 19 of these questions in the comments, go for it. We can have discussions. I will put the questions in the description box if you want to answer them. I think that's it. I gotta go start editing and take more Dayquil. I'm trying to procrastinate, but I don't even have anything to talk to you to procrastinate about. That's really it. If you can hear me, if you can read the subtitles, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. I hope that we're having a good summer. I hope that you guys aren't sick like I am. I hope we're all being healthy, happy, having a good time. I love you. Bye. You have to go through trials, but you have to go through trials. If you don't know what the poohniverse is, it started with Winnie the Pooh.